Chip Kelly leaving his head coaching position at UCLA to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State has definitely been the most talked about college football news this weekend. So I want to take a few minutes and talk about Chip Kelly's offensive schemes, and what he's bringing to Ohio State and how that could have an impact on the offense in general, yes, but specifically transfer quarterback Will Howard and how the two could combine, right? So I want to talk about Chip Kelly's offense. I also want to talk about Will Howard and what he did and has done at Kansas State before transferring. Then talk about the combination of Howard and the combination of Kelly, along with Ryan Day. I think he's going to have his hand over the offense as well. If this is your first time tuning in the QB Spotlight channel, we thank you for tuning in. We're just a big quarterback hub. We talk all things quarterbacks, from quarterback topics like this to film breakdowns. We also have a podcast. We have former and current quarterbacks come on the podcast and just talk about their experience. So you like that type of content and that type of college football kind of niche content for the quarterback position, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. It really does help, right? So please subscribe if that's your cup of tea. So Chip Kelly, let's talk about what the quarterbacks looked like last year in 2023 at UCLA. We'll talk about the running game, what he wants to accomplish, and let's talk about maybe his best years at UCLA offensively. So last year, the quarterback, 7.3 yards per attempt, right under 3,000 yards passing, 2,979 yards to be exact. 58, the completion percentage was 58, 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. One of the quarterbacks did have over 400 yards on the ground, right? The big takeaway from last year was the quarterback play. They had like three guys kind of alternate and go in and out, so it wasn't the best year to look at what Kelly wants to do offensively, but it's what they had to work with. The run game did well last year. Had two running backs over 800 yards on the ground and a combined 14 touchdowns. Right now, 2023 wasn't their best year. 2022, that was DTR's last year. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, excuse me, that was his last year as the quarterback at UCLA, and that was probably his best year. So that's the year I want to look at. That's the year I think Kelly wants to model the offense after, if he can. So 2022. DTR's last year, he had 27 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, right? So that's a much better TD to interception ratio. It's almost 3-1 compared to last year wasn't even 2-1 for the quarterbacks. And then DTR had 646 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns on the ground, right? So with that said, what does Kelly want to do offensively? We saw the numbers from the quarterbacks. We saw the 2022 season. We talked about the 2023 season. What does Kelly want to do? Well, he wants to get the run game going, and he wants to do it creatively, right? He has different schemes to accomplish that. He has different kind of spacing depending on the play to accomplish that. And he has a lot of what we'll call window dressing, right? Trying to get defenses out of position. He wants to run the ball. They want to run the ball. They want to get the run game going. I think with Ohio State's running backs, you've probably watched other channels or shows talk about the excitement with the running backs in Chip Kelly's offense. I think that's true. So the run game isn't the issue. They need to find a way or have a quarterback that can push the ball downfield. If they can do that, then you got a really special offense that Chip Kelly brings to the table. And so how does he want to attack through the air? Well, I think he wants to do it off play action. I think that's what he wants to do. Now, last year, they didn't really have the quarterbacks that could do that. They had a young quarterback with Dante Moore, got his feet wet, but he was a freshman, and then they had Colin Shalee and Ethan Garber. So they just weren't able to do probably all what Kelly wanted to do. So in 2023, 29% of their dropbacks for passes was off play action, which is a lot lower than I would expect for an offensive scheme that wants to run the ball, right? Usually if you have a good run game, you're going to have a pretty good play action game, or a lot of your passing concepts are going to be off of play action, right? So that tells me maybe they just didn't have the quarterbacks, the trust, or the camaraderie to do that, right? In 2022, again, DTR is one of his best in last year. They passed on 40% of their passes were off play action. So it's more than 11% increase was off play action. So that tells me I think Kelly wants to go off play action. I think he wants to get the run game going, and he wants to push the ball downfield off play action. And the highest yards per attempt was off play action for UCLA quarterbacks for DTR in 2022, right? So just to wrap up, Chip Kelly, he wants to get the run game going. I think he's going to do that at Ohio State. And I think he wants to have a quarterback. Obviously, everyone wants to have a quarterback that can push the ball downfield, but he wants to be able to use play action to push the ball downfield. They weren't able to do that last year, but again, in 2022, one of his best years calling plays there, or one of his best offensive years there, they were able to do that, right? So let's look at Will Howard, and then let's look at this combination, if you will. All right, so Will Howard last year, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks, 61.3 completion percentage. In 2022, it was 59.8 completion percentage with 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He had right over 2,600 yards last year. In 2022, he had right over 1,600 yards last year. He also had 351 yards on the ground and 9 touchdowns on the ground. Big guy, athletic quarterback, more athletic than probably given credit for. I don't know if you remember watching him play his earlier years, whenever he was the backup to Skylar Howard, and he would still get some playing time, but he would play when Howard was hurt. But then he'd also come in for different like run packages. Like he was used more of a runner essentially um, earlier on in his career. Then last year in 2022, not so much. Then this year he was used more of a runner. Avery Johnson comes in, right, and then of course he transfers, right. So big QB, plenty of experience. I think it's kind of a perfect situation where Julian Sane can develop, or Aaron Nolan, or whoever you want to be your next guy can develop. But Will Howard can be the man this year. I think his biggest question is, does he have the ability to drive it downfield? That was the biggest thing. His yards per attempt were like in the low sevens, I think, at Kansas State, and only 15 passes where the ball was completed, where it was thrown 20 yards or more downfield. So I think it's a fair question, but I also think like the Kansas State offense didn't feature that. They did not feature it because they didn't think the quarterback could do it, or is that the offense, right? Regardless, I think you're going to have a lot more potential to push the ball downfield in this offense, with Ryan Day's offense, right? You have studs at running back. You have Chip Kelly coming in as offensive coordinator, and then you have receivers to throw to. You have Ryan Day with his influence. So I think it's gonna be a lot easier to push the ball downfield if you're Will Howard. Now, the biggest thing that stands out to me was his play off play action compared to his play whenever there was no play action involved. It was a straight drop back. This is where I think it can get interesting with Kelly's offense. 28% of Will Howard's passes were off play action. Off those 28% of his passes, or off those plays with play action, he had 16 passing touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. His completion percentage was 63.5. Those are really good numbers, right? So again, 28% of his passes were off play action. So what's that? That's 71 point something percent of his passes were just straight dropbacks, were not off play action. And off those passes, he had 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 59% was his completion percentage. So play action, only 28% of his passes, but he had 16 touchdowns, so more than double the amount of his touchdowns on his other throws were off play action. So pretty impressive numbers, and a lot of times play action just helps the quarterback get comfortable. It helps the quarterback potentially see the field easier because you have guys out of position because of throughout the run game. So that tells me, okay, so maybe Will Howard, had some good times, and then had some up and downs, right? But had some good plays, and a lot of it was off play action. So I think that can help push the ball downfield, right? So I think with Will Howard, I think the ability is there. I think it's putting him in position to use that ability to push the ball downfield when needed. Again, the difference is pretty. It's pretty substantial. It's a pretty big difference. Play action, only 28% of his passes are off play action. 16 touchdowns, 4 picks. The other passes, so 71% of the rest of his passes, only 7 touchdowns with 6 interceptions, right? So the combination of Will Howard and Chip Kelly, like, why do we care about play action? Why are we talking about the different schemes that could possibly come? So I think Coach Day is going to have his handprint on this offense. Like, why wouldn't you? Your bright offensive mind, right? If all clicks, right? If you have Kelly click, Howard click together with Day's influence, this could be, and maybe already does, have the highest ceiling in college football for any offense, especially with the run game that you have, which we didn't spend a ton of time talking about. But with those two backs and with Kelly's offense, then you add the potential that if Howard peaks, this could have the highest ceiling in all of college football, right? I think Will Howard's a good quarterback. I think he's shown that he's comfortable and he's at full strength off of play action, or being in a position where he can use play action to his advantage. More than 29% of his passes, right? He needs to be off play action more than 28%. Dylan Gabriel was like 52% last year. Quinn Ewers was over 50%, right? So a lot of these quarterbacks that put up good numbers and that had better seasons than the year prior were using play action to their available. So again, I think Kelly likes to use play action. I think he wants to use play action, especially for his deep throws, but he has to have a quarterback that can do it. That's why you saw the difference between his 2022 quarterbacks and his 2023 quarterbacks. So the combination of all of them, the kind of big overall takeaway, more play action for Chip Kelly this year, because I think he has a quarterback that is good at play action. And so since you have Will Howard, who's good at play action, and you have offensive coordinator like Kelly, who's going to get the run game going, I think we're going to see Will Howard throw off play action and take more deep shots due to Day's influence, right? So exciting stuff if you're a Ohio State fan, crazy stuff. I would assume it works because Ohio State has a lot of really good players, right, and good coaches in place. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about Kelly's offense? What do you think about Will Howard? Was it too much play action stuff? I just think that the ability to get a quarterback comfortable, especially a quarterback that's shown to favor play action like Howard, I think it's important to play to his strengths. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts about Will Howard, Chip Kelly, just the combination in general? How do you think the offense will look in 2024? And yeah, remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. If you don't like it, then just be nice and don't say anything. But thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.